This What's Working with Cam Marston podcast is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer.
What's Working with Cam Marston is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer. Stella Artois is a perfect beer for celebration. Nothing caps off a big sale, hitting your incentive goals, or a profitable quarter like a round of Stellas. Brewed first in 1708 as a special Christmas brew, today Stella is a gift for everyone to enjoy year-round. Stella Artois. Find it wherever fine beer is sold.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is the show designed to bring you the workforce, the workplace, and the marketplace trends shaping the workforce, the workplace, and the marketplace around you. I find the guests that can give us insights on these trends and can deliver the insights to us in an interview in such a way that you and I can pick something up from what they're telling us that we can immediately apply to our own workplace, to our own business, to our own approach to the marketplace. Now, as we're recording this, COVID is still out there, and it's a part of nearly every conversation it seems that we're having these days. And if in your workplace, one of your team catches COVID, the chances are the workplace can continue. You isolate this person, you send them home, you go through your own workplace protocols, whatever it may be. But what if you have a workplace where if one person catches COVID, the place has to shut down, has to stop functioning? The bills continue for keeping the workplace open, but the workplace can no longer function. What type of workplace is this? A movie set. You can imagine one of the key figures, the key actors on a movie set catching COVID and the thing having to shut down, yet all the production people, all the rental equipment for lights, etc., all the food and bev people still are on the clock, are still having to get paid. Therefore, the protocols necessary to keep these key actors from getting COVID are remarkable, are really comprehensive. And our guest today is Emily O'Banion. She's the health and safety supervisor on movie sets. And she has been a part of 9 movies since COVID set in and has some great expertise on this. She's in town filming a movie here in Mobile, and she's going to talk to us about the extraordinary protocols that they have developed to protect the key talent. And there's some things she's going to tell us that we can apply to our own workplace, an idea, an approach to something. She's very comprehensive. She's very good at what she does. And you're going to be amazed by the protocols they have in place to keep these key people from getting sick. However, before going into the conversation with Emily, it's important to mention this event that we've been ballyhooing now that's right around the corner, and that's the Small Business Succession Planning Workshop. Here are the details. November the 4th. It's going to be at the Community Foundation for South Alabama. Beautiful new building in downtown Mobile. I checked it out to check on the space. Beautiful. You're going to appreciate this place if you haven't been. Doors will open at 4. Content will begin around 4:30. About 5:30, we'll have a reception to network, ask questions, etc. And the lineup includes the following. Me. I'll be talking about the emotional preparedness needed to get ready for retirement. Many small business owners, that business has been their baby, and the thought of leaving it gives them some concern. I'll address that a little bit. I'm happy to confirm that Bob Jones, the recently retired CEO of United Bank in Atmore, is going to talk to us a little bit about his retirement, how he stepped into it, and things that he might do differently. He's kind of a case study for what we're talking about. We'll also have Rick Miller. He's a consultant with Pro 356 Consulting. He coaches organizations on their succession, both the person leaving the organization as well as the heir apparent that's taking on the new leadership role. He'll be sharing some of his tips and ideas and his learnings. And we'll have Jamie Sandifer and Mark Salyers with Sandifer Wealth talking about generating income in retirement as you leave your business. The details again, November the 4th, Community Foundation for South Alabama. Doors open at 4, content at 4:30, reception at 5:30. Email me, Cam, C-A-M, at cammarston.com. I'll send you the link to RSVP. When we come back from break, Emily O'Banion, Health and Safety Supervisor on movie sets, talking about the protocols they put in place to keep their key people safe. You're going to enjoy this one. We'll be right back.
When you make the right decision, it feels good, like picking the perfect accent rug or choosing a good night's sleep over an all-night crime show binge. It feels really good to make the right insurance decision, too. I'm State Farm agent Allison Horner, and that's why I'm right here in Mobile to help you select the right protection at the right price. I'll make sure you understand your State Farm coverages so you'll know what to expect if the unexpected happens. With me as your State Farm agent, it's easy to make the right choice. You can come by, call, or click AllisonHorner.com. When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. I'm in the studio today with Emily O'Banion, and I'm going to have her introduce herself because it's more complex than a simpleton like me can do, and with my longtime old buddy David Lane with Coast Diagnostics. Emily, first, welcome to Mobile. Emily is an Oklahoman. Welcome to Mobile. I know you'll be here for about 6 months. Tell everybody what it is that you do and the secret group that you're here working with that you can't represent. Can't mention.
First of all, I'm loving Mobile so far. The people, the food, the climate, the beach, the trees, it's wonderful here.
You have already made an extraordinary group of fans love you thus far. We are very proud of our town. We're happy you're here. Now, if you'd like to continue to tell us why you like our town, that would be fine. However, if you'd like to tell us what you do, that'd be fine too.
Okay, so I'm in town working on a major motion picture with Lionsgate Studio, and I happen to be the health safety supervisor, which encompasses multiple things. The first and foremost would be the pandemic or the risk of COVID infection for the cast and crew on set.
How many people are you overseeing at this point?
Right now, about 220.
200? Is it just you alone, or is there many of you?
No, I have a team. We put a team together. That's kind of the main description or duties of my job is to jump in early in the preparation for a film and put a team together, multifaceted.
So health and safety supervisor. If we were, let's say, in early March of 2020, prior to COVID, does every movie set have a health and safety supervisor on site?
So there's always been a component of health and safety within the film industry. SAG, or the Screen Actors Guild, has a department that's dedicated to this, overseeing the safety of stunts, water work, marine work, that kind of thing on set. There's always been a huge first aid presence, so every set would have a medic and medical supplies, ambulances on standby if necessary. But as far as a department or kind of the far-reaching duties that I do now, no, there was not.
There's not. David, let's talk to you, how you get into this thing. David is the National Sales Manager for Coast Diagnostics. David, tell us how you're related to this secret movie.
So I got a call from Emily about 2 months ago, and we actually do COVID testing along with other diagnostic testing in the Mobile and southeastern area. And the group that she's with, they actually service, they want to do local help with what they're doing instead of national. So we're one of the few local labs that do actually COVID testing and diagnostic testing. So that's how we originally met.
So, Emily, you must have screened a lot of COVID and diagnostic testing groups, and you still selected David anyway.
That's right. So I've learned some of the quality or things to look for in a lab and in a partnership. This is the 9th feature film that I filmed under the COVID protocols. Learned a lot along the way, and one of them is the absolute necessity of having a competent, responsive laboratory that not only do I entrust the health of our cast and crew with, but also can be responsive and can adapt to our very custom needs, our very specific needs that allow us to keep rolling like a steam train is basically what it is through production.
So it's got to be expensive to produce one of these movies, to have 200 and some odd people on payroll and you don't want them standing around. Therefore, if somebody needs a test, we need to get it done quickly. David, are you on site for this movie all day?
No, we typically aren't on site. What we do is we send our teams down early in the morning to do testing for the day so that they can move on with their days, and then we give them their results from the previous day as well that they have access to.
What other type of environment, David, would you be doing this in? So we got a movie set. What other type of environment do you have people on site testing in the moment?
Well, the most popular one that everybody will know in Mobile is the Reese's Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
So we did all the pro football players, coaches, scouts, et cetera, this past year.
Do you have equipment on site to test them, or do you have to bring it back to the lab?
We actually do a hybrid version of that. We have our standard testing that we do inside our lab, and then we actually have portable machines that we can send to the sites as well, where we do a rapid or a quick test on some of the people there.
Emily, you were going to say something?
And it was actually this Senior Bowl or NHL. My son is a hockey player, so NHL rolls off my tongue really easily.
Yeah.
NFL, the services that they had provided for him. One of my first questions was asking about some of the organizations that they provided testing for. When I heard that, knowing the NFL's standards and protocols definitely piqued my interest that they were capable of a project this scale. So that was one of the first things actually that Dave and I spoke about. And, I started, asking more questions and knowing that a lab that had provided services for an organization like that was capable possibly of being my vendor or lab.
How did you get into this business, Emily? It seems so strange. It's a non-traditional business. And let's face it, our neck of the woods is not real familiar with high-end movie production. So we all look at it as kind of sexy. And anybody involved with it has got to have a great story to tell, is my feel. How did you get into it?
Well, like so many others that work in film, just kind of stumble into it. That's one of my favorite aspects of this, is hearing the stories of how everyone gets into it. And very, very few actually get into it through film school or through some, planned entrance into the industry. Myself, my background, I was a critical care paramedic, a flight paramedic for many years, and actually had some pretty crazy jobs. I worked in the Arctic, and I actually worked for the NHL as a team.
I want to
medic.
make sure I heard what I heard. You worked in the Arctic.
Yes, the high eastern Arctic would be between Greenland and Nunavut, way up north of the Arctic Circle, doing rescue, doing flight rescue, and
that's a whole show right there. Well,
there's some stories for sure. But I had then also worked the off season for that. So that was pretty summertime excursions. Not many people visiting the Arctic, whether military, geologists, archaeologists. There's all different kinds of functions that go on during the summertime there, about a 4-month window. Wintertime, not so much. The conditions there, just reduce the number of humans up in the Arctic. So in the wintertime, I would come back to Calgary and work for the Calgary Flames as their team medic. And of course, also worked clinically many years in a helicopter providing life flight type services. So I've had some, interesting jobs. Randomly got a call 6 years ago now for a film. I had returned to Oklahoma from Calgary, and it's my home state. And randomly got a phone call by a buddy who said, listen, this movie just called the ambulance station. They're looking for someone to work as a set medic. It sounds like something your crazy self would be interested in.
Exactly.
And I was like, well, yeah, I'll take some time off work and go up. And it ended up being, I thought they'd make a movie in like 2 weeks. And no. So I ended up taking more time off, and it was almost 5 months to film the movie there in Bartlesville. And I just fell in love, just the environment, the people, the stories, the work itself. And so I started working as a set medic and had been doing that in multiple shows, about 25 shows before COVID.
Yeah.
And then it was just a natural having connections, having producers that trusted me and that had a rapport with me. First, it just started as all these questions like, hey, you probably know how are we going to do filming? Oh, are we going to do testing? Or are we going to do, and this is like in March, movie producers are just like horses at a gate. They're just ready to go. Mm-hmm. And so wanting to get a head start. And so I started reaching out. Obviously, I really didn't have a background in public health or pandemics or any kind of, obviously laboratory testing or x-rays or, general functions of medicine I had an understanding of, but this novel virus and no idea what any of this was. So I started reaching out to medical community, the network that I had of doctors, nurses, and labs, and just asking a ton of questions and reading anything I could consume about the pandemic. Started learning a lot and started writing the initial protocols for sets. And some of those have been adapted from the initial ones that I wrote into our union protocols that are now in effect.
So all the unions, the Screen Actors Guild has protocols that must be kept in place or adhered to on movie sites across the nation, I would assume.
Right. So there's several unions that have a large presence in our industry. One would be the Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah.
One would be IATSE, or the stage employees, which would be filmmakers that are on set, costumers, hair and makeup, the grips, electric, medics, all the other departments that are kind of on set are represented by IATSE. Then the DGA, which is the Directors Guild, and then Teamsters, which represent the transportation department. So all of those unions came together and created, it was end of July when the first draft or version was published. It's called the Return to Work Agreement.
When we come back, I want to talk about who you report to on set. I think that's kind of interesting. And it sounds like 9 movies since the pandemic began is a lot. And I'm curious what the number would be had there not been a pandemic. Let's get into that when we get back from break. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston in the studio today. Emily O'Banion, an Oklahoman, and Oklahoma is okay. And David Lane, old friend of mine from back in the day, Coast Diagnostics. We'll be right back.
What's Working with Cam Marston is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer. Now offering the purchase of the Stella Artois Chalice, a beautiful stemmed glass with the Stella logo. The purchase of each Stella Artois Chalice provides 5 years of clean water for someone in one of 13 developing countries around the world. Learn more at stellaartois.com. Stella Artois. Find it wherever fine beer is sold.
Emily O'Banion is from Oklahoma. She's here in Mobile filming a movie. It's a secret movie. She can't talk about it, and it's full of A-list actors. It's a secret list of actors. She can't talk about it, or she will be shot in her sleep. And she's telling us how the work goes on the set. David Lane is here. He's the national sales manager with Coast Diagnostics, who Emily has selected to help them on site to do the testing. So let's get into a little bit of the testing. Do you test everybody once at the beginning of the week and then once the next week, or is it daily, or is it multiple times a day? Because I would imagine you could lose some of this key talent to a sickness or an illness or something like that, and suddenly the set has to stop. Am I right?
Correct.
And that's not all the correct terminology, but go ahead. Tell me how you test.
Absolutely. So here's the deal. We have very defined timelines and requirements as to how and who and when we must test. And in order for me to be in compliance or operating the protocols as I'm required to do or entrusted to do, we have to test everyone before they start work. So
every day.
No, before they onboard.
I see.
Any crew member or cast member that is coming to join us to work has to be tested and receive a negative result from a lab-based test, this specific test that David can provide. It's a lab-based test. The collection must go back to the lab and be run. So everyone who starts work, cast or crew, must have one of these PCR tests, and I must have the result before they can start. So testing starts with a coordinator. So I have a coordinator on my team. I've hired. She has meticulous spreadsheet skills and management of that grid. So she is in contact as everyone on board. So that's the first step. That everyone is tested before they start work. We receive the results. And they must be tested within 48 hours of the moment they walk into the door for first. So not 3 days before, not 2 days, or not 4 days before, within that 48-hour time. And then we break it down within zones. So zone A is the hot set. That magic place where the actors drop their masks and perform and have no protection, nor do they offer those of us working around them protection from anything that, an infection they might be carrying. Those Zone A members test 3 times weekly. And those tests, we have to have a very narrow window of getting the results back. So it's very important that that in this process, a lab is picked that has the ability to hit those marks with turnaround times, and to maintain such an impeccable testing schedule. Outside of that hot set, and those folks that would be in there, the director, sound, costumes, makeup, anyone that's interacting or has the need to be right there during the action. And then Zone B, we've broken down into all of those that are on the periphery. They're on set, but they can actually step away and keep their distance when talent is actually performing. And we're testing those folks twice a week.
I see.
Kind of with the same. And then we have a Zone C, which are those folks that are able to keep distance from each other at all times, so they can stay 6 feet apart. They can wear masks. Most of them are working in the production office or one of the warehouses, but definitely most distant from Zone A or B. And those folks are testing once a week.
What about extras? You got a crowd of extras. You need to film a bullfight, and you got 1,000 extras out there because Mobile, Alabama is big on bullfights. And I'm kidding. I see your look. We don't do bullfights in Mobile, Alabama. What do you do with crowds of extras?
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned them again. They've been my headache all morning. So extras have to be tested before they play as well.
And they go into Zone A, I would imagine.
That's correct. They drop masks. They're performing on screen right next to our Tom Cruises and our Morgan Freemans.
But let's be clear. Tom Cruise and Morgan Freeman aren't in Mobile filming this movie now, or else you'll get shot by saying that because it's top secret according to union rules.
That's right. They aren't.
Okay.
I use them as examples because their names run through my head.
Absolutely.
So these background extras must be tested within the same 48-hour regimen. And the other thing on this is often background extras, especially if they're cast for a specific role, the bellhop, the lawn boy, they need fittings before they play. So then we factor in a test 48 hours before they fit, and another test 48 hours before they play. So, big background days, we have 150. In fact, we have one coming up this weekend that we're organizing a drive-through clinic to being able to accommodate 150 people coming to test within a 6-hour window, which David's also the man because he's made it happen.
Yeah.
So, just pivoting and being able to provide or be responsive or adapt to this crazy environment of specific needs. So Coast has been able to put us up a drive-through clinic, knowing what this looks like. I've done this multiple times now on other shows. I've seen just this cluster. For lack of a better word, of trying to test this many people at one time. And so we're doing it at a drive-through clinic. But nevertheless, they have to test. We have to have a negative result. And it's labor intensive.
David, what part of this process caught you off guard? Was there anything they presented to you that's unique to the SAG rules or any of the other union rules that they've compiled that you said, we can do it, but let me think about this?
Well, there's one thing that comes out to my mind is the concierge testing, which is a very specific testing that we have to provide for them, for example, at a hotel room at 10 p.m. So in this day, with what we're dealing with and the people we work with, it's sometimes difficult to schedule that and have someone available at 10 o'clock at night or wait around for someone because they got a late flight in, and then we had to extend our time waiting to do one specific test. But it's not something we haven't done in the past. It's something we have done, but it is a challenge for my team to make that happen.
Is this and I'm not wanting dollars here, but is this the contract that you sign with them that anything they want, you're able to supply to them, or is it a per person price? How did you guys come up with something like this?
Well, what we do is Emily and I were clear up front before we ever started this project about what her needs were and what we could provide for them, and it is a per test is how we do that.
I see.
For these individuals, and to do a concierge testing is a little more expensive than to do a standard testing.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I would say the challenge is not, you kind of understated. So we're also not just dealing with folks with canceled flights or late flights or whatever, but we're also dealing with a demographic actors of individuals who aren't really given to a tight schedule. Especially if they're not on set. So, it's kind of, yes, our flight comes in at 10:57 p.m. and they've been given instructions for their driver to take them to their hotel. But a driver is not going to be able to withstand a request to stop for a burger or to divert somewhere else. So there's constant updates and changes to when someone is going to arrive. So I'd say it is quite challenging.
No kidding. So you're staring at your watch a lot. You've got everything ready. And I assume, David, that much of this technology that you're referring to continues to be more and more portable. Is that safe to say, that you can bring it to a hotel room and plug it in? Am I thinking about that right?
No, not necessarily. What we do is we transport the specimen in VTM or viral transport media, and we swab them at the room and then take those specifically back to the lab. So
you'll put it in your shirt pocket and drive it back to the lab, and hopefully you don't get distracted on the way home with so-and-so's PCR test or something like that.
Well, that'd just be a travesty.
That would be
that'd be a bad day for David and I think, and for whoever had it in their pocket.
So I mentioned prior to the break, you've done 9 shows, movies. Is that the right term?
Yeah. Feature films. Blockbusters.
Since COVID set in, what would you be doing had COVID not set in? 9 or 50?
No, actually, I would probably be doing more like 4 a year. So I took the privilege of having more time off in between shows. So kind of how we do is we run and gun for the period of the film, working 14 or 16-hour days, most weekends. And then when we wrap, we all kind of go back to our homes and we just disconnect, and we're home without distraction, and we take anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks off, then jump on, with not going to work at all. So we have the really nice long break, decompress, get all, go to the dentist, all the things you need to do, and then jump back on another project. But 9 has been, especially health and safety. So previously, a medic wouldn't have been involved in prep or wrap. They show up at call, they wrap at the end of the day. But with health and safety, I'm one of the first person to join the project. So I would say that the increase in the amount of time I'm involved in a film has made it to where I've had 13 actual days off since May 15th of last year.
Wow. You're busy.
Very busy. And I could be busier.
Really? There's that much work out there?
There's that much work. It's really a niche to and something that I just really stumbled into, to know production so well, having been on so many movies and know all the moving parts, to have a background in healthcare and have an idea or people that I can call and ask. And then third, just to have common sense, that does seem to be missing a lot in this environment.
In the community of actors and artists, common sense is a rare and uncommon thing.
Yeah. Creatives just don't get it.
What gets you your next project? Is it your personality? Is it the effectiveness, on set, easy to work with, pricing? What's the next gig going to come from?
So I think in the beginning it was desperation, having anyone that could even pronounce the words that were in the protocols. At this point, I'd like to hope I've had a fair bit of success in keeping folks safe and doing it with organization and with a lot of laughs. We're a very fun bunch. The team that I put together laughs a lot. And otherwise, a department like this can be viewed as like the COVID police, which we're very strict. We enforce protocols to a T, but there's an art of doing it where folks don't take offense to our presence.
I see. It's an attitude you take towards your potential patients, customers.
Yeah, crew members. It's a team. Now I've worked for several producers that, just beg me to come on to their next project. Yeah. Not to sound like I'm important, but I've got work as far as the eye can see.
Well, you mentioned producers a couple times, and I asked the question prior to the last break, who do you report to? My guess it's the producer, but I would like to know more about the chain of command when you get there and how that all works, and we're coming up to the break. So let's ask that question that I asked at the previous break and didn't answer this time. When we come back, we'll talk about who you report to, and we'll actually answer the question. You're listening to Cam Marston. I'm in the studio. Emily O'Banion, she is a health and safety supervisor on movie sets across the nation. And David Lane. David is the national sales manager locally for Coast Diagnostics. We'll be right back.
Think about how people really see you. The kid at the drive-thru just sees a coffee drinker.
Please pull forward.
Your local barista sees the person who loves a smiley face in their latte.
See you next time.
It's kind of the same way with insurance. Other insurance companies just see a customer, but a State Farm agent sees more. They see you as a neighbor. Your State Farm agent is here to get to know who you really are, so they can help life go right.
Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, in Mobile at 666-1616.
Hey, this is Cam. Thanks for listening, and I hope you're really enjoying the podcast. Do me a favor and search for Cam Marston on your social media outlets and like us or follow us or whatever is the right thing to do. Also, if you know others who'd benefit from the podcast, please forward it on to them and encourage them to listen. If you're so inclined, we'd love your rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Those ratings matter. Finally, don't be a stranger. Email me with your comments, your feedback, your thoughts, your show ideas, whatever. Cam, C-A-M, at cammarston.com. I'd love to hear from you. Again, thank you very much for listening. Now, back to the show. We're back. I'm in the studio with my old friend, David Lane. David and I have known each other for a long, long time. And my new friend, Emily O'Banion. She's the health and safety supervisor on a feature film being shot in Mobile, but she can't tell us which one. Emily, on the set, who do you report to? How does that chain of command work, and where are you in this chain of command? I don't know why this is curious to me, but it is.
So in the chain of command, I would say my superior, the one I would report to first, would be the line producer. The line producer is the top on-the-ground producer that has hired or put together the entire team. And that line producer's job is the budget and putting together the department heads. And so I'd say, the line producer. On this particular job, I was actually called in by one of the Lionsgate producers that I have worked with previously.
Lionsgate is a name I know in the film industry, but tell me what they are.
Lionsgate is a studio.
It
is. It's one of the larger studios.
Okay. So can you give me a story or a tale about you've got all these important people, you've got all this money being spent, you've got a budget to keep to, and then somebody comes down with something that we don't want them to have, and I suspect it's like a SWAT team lockdown at that point to keep things going. Tell me a story.
It absolutely is. So the one that comes to my mind first is the actual very first positive case that I encountered as a health safety supervisor on a film we were filming in Oklahoma. It's made the news, so I think we can speak about it freely, but it's a biopic on President Reagan, and it's called Reagan.
It's a good title.
Yeah. And so we were up in production. We were running with about a crew of 200, very large cast, many background. We were within our second week of production, toiling about my day with, laundry list of things to do, calls from, just managing everything. And we get that call from the lab. So-and-so is positive. And it couldn't have been a worse so-and-so because this so-and-so happened to be the department head of makeup.
Okay. A lot of close contact with that individual.
A lot of close contacts.
Yeah.
And, it was overwhelming. I knew everything to do. I knew exactly, where to start and isolate this person from set, repeat their test, initiate contact tracing with the person, contact each individual that was named as a possible close contact, isolate those folks, test them, get them into quarantine, report to the health department, get the producers, and let only the folks know that can know what's going on. And it was challenging, I will say. The first time I worked the protocols, and it was probably the worst case scenario as far as exposures. You've got the department head of makeup who sits in a small enclosed trailer with the leading cast members, A-listers, who take the whole they play every day. They take the whole movie down if they either test positive or are close quarantine or close contacted. This is pre-vaccine.
Yeah.
So, screeching halt. So get him out and, send him off. Get him retested. Of course, we can't send him to anywhere. We've got to go test him, send him back, and he's traveled, so he's staying in an Airbnb.
Right.
So get him off. He was actually got symptoms that afternoon, and then doing, close contact tracing. He gave me a list of names that he believed. So, and I can't make calls fast enough. People are calling me, because the minute I called him and told him and got him off, he starts making phone calls. Those folks start freaking out. They start calling me. It's like, spaghetti. It's raining spaghetti.
Yes.
And so, it was touch and go. Thankfully, no one got seriously ill. Production did shut down for 10 days. We close contacted the main cast and worked through. Now, mind you, our jobs continued because we continued to have to test everyone, even though they were in quarantine. So, it was just, health and safety plowed through and continued working every day. Everyone else was in their respective hotels and Airbnbs and it's intense. It's very intense.
I would suspect that experience taught you we don't ever want to let this happen again. Therefore, we are going to be rigorous in the testing. We've learned, not that you've learned your lesson, you didn't fail at anything, but we're going to take this really seriously. Very
much so. And I've had several other experiences. That was kind of trial by fire, and I learned how to respond to that positive. It's a lot smoother when it happens now. I think David can probably attest. There's definitely an art form to the response, and now it doesn't even get my blood pressure elevated.
Really?
But we've learned a lot. That's for sure.
David, in our neck of the woods down here, we did see a spike in the Delta variant for a while, and I would suspect that even though the movie came, the production that we're talking about here in Mobile came during that spike. And I suppose you guys were on your toes the whole time, too, recognizing this, huh?
Absolutely. We, when Emily and I started talking originally, I don't think the spike had totally hit yet, but it was on its way. And we knew that the July 4th weekend was going to be an issue for the country and our area because of the beach. And it certainly was, and we worked through everything despite all that.
Yeah. Is there any sort of union rules that mandate vaccines?
So actually, the return to work agreement, which was the original protocol contract that came out that covered this, that was issued in July of 2020, there was a revision or an update that came out in September. And the unions did decide to allow that studios can mandate vaccines. And that is occurring on most studio productions, at least in Zone A, cast and crew that work on that hot set around actors that do not have masks.
So when we see this movie come out someday, we will see the A-listers, I'm trying to use your terminology, who are in Zone A and who are the background of the movie is places that we in our town recognize. We can presume that they're all vaccinated.
You could presume that, yes.
That's pretty accurate, huh?
Pretty accurate.
Yeah. So have they done their own research? I'm kidding. I need to get off that topic and get on their own research. One of the things you mentioned a little while ago is that you, as the health and safety supervisor, did I understand you to say that you also oversee the stunts, the stunt actors perhaps? Or do you only look at the disease component? I'm not using the right terminology, but the disease. If somebody's jumping off a roof, are you watching out for those people too?
So globally, under that, there are designated. So the stunt coordinator will powwow or have a plan with the set medic to decide whether or not there needs to be a standby ambulance, a standby helicopter, these type of different things. They'll go through the safety of the stunt. There's actually a stunt. Don't really know what the word would be, but there's a layout. They write it out. They write out all the safety concerns, the safety plan. That's the big word I was looking for.
Yeah.
And so that is done. And so I don't necessarily oversee that, but the medic that's on set definitely works with stunts.
So that's not one of your direct reports. The medic is a different category.
Still in health and safety.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's not my main concern is to write safety plans for stunts.
So you told me how you get your gigs, and you told me what makes you successful, and I love the component, which is we laugh a lot, and we make this, what can be a boring or uncomfortable process, as best as possible with a spoonful of laughter. Tell me about your team. You've got to find people who also reflect this attitude. Where have you found them? Are they all Oklahomans too?
That's right.
Really?
I drag them along with me. We do have a couple of locals that have joined us on this project, and we do usually, we filmed in Big Sky, Montana, Jackson, Mississippi, Terlingua, Texas. So we've been in some places, picked up a couple of locals along the way that can be assistants to our team. But, I looked for folks that I knew that could endure the heat, the cold, the yelling, and keep some humor, and also have common sense. I would say that's one of our, and I've seen in David's crew, his rock star crew members are those that are quick on their feet, have common sense, and take initiative. But another thing I look for is those who bring some jokes to the table and some laughter, constant pranksters and inside jokes. We have to have some levity with the responsibility. It's an overwhelming responsibility.
You said you work 14 hours a day. Is that just the health and safety team, or is that the whole set? That's the pace of a film on location.
So you might have heard some things in the news. IATSE is talking about, which is the union that I'm a member of, is actually starting to talk about even a possible strike due to the lack of a turnaround time on set. So the entire crew are working those hours. I would say I tack on about 2 hours a day to what other crew members on set are working.
David, give me a sense of your team. You've had to find the right people for this. Who are they?
Yeah, so we have some excellent people on our team. Catherine Stringfellow is our clinical coordinator, and she's in the field as well. and Tasha Sanders is an account manager for us, and she is a field rep as well. But those types of people, and when she talks about the hours, we're in the same boat. We're all on group texts, group emails. At 4:30 this morning, I'm getting messages about things that we need to do starting this day, and we start real early, and we end up real late in the evenings, and I think that's evident with all that we do with our positions.
That's great. David, we're coming to the end of the segment. If people are holding an event and feel like your services would be valuable to them, how can they find you?
So we're real easy to find. We always say we're on Airport Boulevard behind Mosley's Meat Market, and our number is 459-8405 or Coast Diagnostics with an S.com.
David Lane is the National Sales Manager, Coast Diagnostics. Emily O'Banion, Health and Safety Supervisor on set for the movie here. Emily, thank you for your time. I appreciate this. I've never interviewed an Oklahoman, and I'm fond of you people. You've done well for your people.
Well, I don't get behind a microphone very often.
You should. You're good at it. So tell me one thing that stands out to you about our fair city of Mobile, Alabama.
I would say Dauphin Street.
Yeah.
And the Lido Beer Garden.
Oh, there you go.
We found some friends down there. Nice outdoor patio. It's within our protocols. We can eat outdoors, and we found it nice down there.
And as we're recording this, there's a hint of fall in the air, which is going to be wonderful this weekend. Mm-hmm. Emily, welcome to town. We're happy you're here. I hope we treat you well. Thank you for coming.
Thanks so much, Cam.
David, good to see you again.
Great to see you, Cam.
We'll be back after this break with final messages. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston.
What's Working with Cam Marston is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer. Stella Artois is a perfect beer for celebration. Nothing caps off a big sale, hitting your incentive goals, or a profitable quarter like a round of Stella's. Brewed first in 1708 as a special Christmas brew, today Stella is a gift for everyone to enjoy year-round. Stella Artois. Find it wherever fine beer is sold.
Hey, this is T. Bruce McKinnon. I'm the president and CEO of Elevator World and Bay Business News. And when I'm not traveling the world, looking over elevators or trying to find news for the local business community, I'm listening to What's Working with Cam Marston. Now back to the show.
Thanks to Emily. So happy she's enjoying her time in our fair city here. Want her to be comfortable and enjoy it, and hopefully come back someday with excitement in her step because she enjoyed her time here. And really interesting what it is that they're doing. Thanks, Emily. And thanks to David Lane for bringing her to my attention and joining us in the conversation. Let's wrap it up, folks. I want to remind you about the November 4th Small Business Succession Planning Workshop. Email me, Cam, C-A-M, at cammarston.com if you'd like to be sent the RSVP link. We'd sure love to have you. And want to make sure you're checking us out on social media. I mean, we get a lot of ideas as well as promote a lot of the shows, give you some insights on the guests that you don't hear on the broadcast through our different social media links. Find me on all the social medias and click it and tweet it and like it, and you know the stuff. You know the protocols out there. Facebook is the one that we use the most because it seems to be the one that most of my listeners are paying attention to. I'm happy to report, and this is a bit premature, but I'm happy to report that we are looking at taking the show statewide. That's very exciting for us. And we've got reason to believe it will be received well across the state. And again, very exciting for us. So check us out on social media. Go to Apple Podcasts. Give us a comment. Like us on the Apple Podcast. Rate us. Do all that kind of stuff. Show couldn't happen without nice and generous and kind people, nor could it happen without John Thompson. John Thompson is the show's producer. Find him at Eyeon Digital, E-Y-E-O-N Digital. Give him a call if you got something in mind. That's it for this week, everybody. Have a good week. We'll have another show next week.